Daniel Hutchings is your friendly neighbourhood freelance gigolo. He lives on the outskirts of the entertainment industry on a diet of cheap cat food. He has made 3 feature-length art comedies, which he likes to call thingies: Django Your Own Way, Freelance Gigolo, and Happy Returns. And who's Daniel Hutchings? Well, me.
When I say Daniel, you say Hutchings, Daniel. Hutchings. Daniel. Hutchings. When I say Hutchings, you say Daniel. Daniel. Hutchings. Hello. And welcome to my show. I said hello. And welcome to my show. We finished. Welcome to my show.
This is the story of a man.
Action.
Hello and welcome to the Seven Oaks Pub, a venue of many an amazing comedy experience for me. It's where I did a regular slot for Will Hutchby's comedy night. I decided to start doing live performance because I'd never felt comfortable doing live performance, and I never felt comfortable enough, quote unquote, being myself to be the kind of performer to go up and just talk about experiences that I'd had during the week or recently, and building a set around that kind of observation comedy. What I was more interested in is exorcising a certain nervous energy I had socially and trying to understand what that could mean to other people and understand if it could have some kind of use for me in life in general. I always thought about the little interview clip of Jim Morrison when he visited the UK, I think about 67 I think it was, and he said he wasn't very happy with a lot of the Doors' music and a lot of their performances because he felt like it was too dark, and I think he describes it as being like someone who's not quite home, and that in the future he would like to make something that's just a complete expression of joy, of just pure joy, like the coming of spring. And I saw that quite early on when I was a teenager, and that always resonated with me with regards to being something to focus on, to draw things from, to spread joy as an emotion rather than just to make people laugh. So it was a feeling rather than the action of laughter. I'd also avoid doing things like parody, sort of like direct criticisms of things, anything that would make anyone in the audience feel that they were not, couldn't be part of the laughter if they were the subject of the laughter. So more so than just the sort of rule of law that as long as you're making fun of yourself, you're fine. Because leading on from that, I'd think, well, what about people who see themselves as similar to me, and if I'm laughing at that part of myself, and maybe they don't want that part of themselves to be laughed at, then that would sort of kill the thinginess for them. But what is a thingy? I think with the thing is, it's one of the things where it started out being, you know, a bit tongue-in-cheek and a little bit of like, well, if it's not a film, if it's something else, then it'll be the best thing he ever made. Like Django will be the best thing he ever made, and it'll be, you know, give me a sense of freedom as a filmmaker. It'll be give the audience a sense of freedom as to what to expect. So it should be something that's indescribable. And I think I was trying to sort of the thing that's developed, I think, is trying to find something that's an easy to communicate filmmaking model that other people can maybe pick up and use as well, and maybe so the thing of having to describe what your intentions are is something that a lot of filmmakers find themselves in as part of the mechanics of getting films made and budgeted. So I thought, if I'm doing a thingy and I don't have to explain anything to anyone, if I'm the person who's writing it and performing in it and editing it, I don't really need any kind of documentation or any way to explain who it's for or how it functions. So I thought I can be right at the edge of my imagination, and I don't have to, there's so many things I don't have to consider that I can just simply explore, and whatever I find will be what ends up in the thingy, and that happened far more with the sketchbook edit of Freelance Gigolo. So that was far more a sense of like fun of exploring. The Django structure gave me a way of manifesting a feature-length work. And I think that's one of the things I was trying to figure out, is how to explain and how to put over a very simple filmmaking model. So, because I selfishly want to see more specific films from specific filmmakers about specific subjects that are very tactile and personal. Walking up this hill brings back some wonderful memories, mainly trying to pull a suitcase full of costumes and equipment to shoot Joe King's Throne. As for these shots, because I didn't quite know what I was doing and I wanted to take advantage of strange weather, at the drop of a hat I shot them totally solo. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to make Django Your Own Way as an artistic venture, because I wanted to explore filmmaking rather than explore business strategies. I didn't think about where it was going to go. I wanted to work as close to my imagination as possible, and I felt that the avenues that were presented didn't actually seem like actual avenues, and they were just sort of like stages of admin. And so I wanted to, if I was going to make a film, then I was going to make the film, you know, rather than plan a film and then spend time trying to find money and then spend time trying to get people to work on it. And so it's just long, instead of it being a long protracted thing. And also, you know, like coming from a comedic angle, and you've got things where the crumminess of how it looks feeds into the comedy. Yeah. So it's not like I was trying to do like Apocalypse Now with just a camcorder, you know. It's like, you know, I was thinking like, if the Exifeston stuff has like a holy grail quality to it, then that will feed back into it, because it's within the comedy character's imagination. It's not a legitimate space or place in time, so it's reflective of like the guy's internal imagination and everything. So I think it was just the excitement and the interest in wanting to make instead of explain and convince, yeah. If that makes sense. I screened it for the cast and crew at the Castle Hotel, which is a pub just up the road. Everyone really enjoyed the thingy. Everyone really loved their performances. They really loved that it was a feature-length work and that it had an accumulative effect and a climax at the end, which was great. So I put together a little press release and sent that to as many different film nights and cinemas as I could find, to ask them if they would let me screen my thingy for free for the general public. Some places got back in touch, about 4 out of about 200 emails, I'd say. There was a bar in Birmingham, the Jekyll and Hyde. There was Huddersfield University. There was Library Live, which is the performance space of Central Library in Manchester. Why did they say yes to me doing it in fun and for free? I guess you'd have to ask them. Okay, here we are at Central Library. This is where I've had 2 screenings of my thingies, Django Your Own Way in 2015 and Freelance Gigolo in 2017. The Django Your Own Way screening was an amazing evening in my life, wonderful memories. It was very well attended. All the cast and crew came. They brought family members and friends. People who saw the gigantic thingy poster that I put in the poster box there came. It was a very positive sense that during the screening, the energy was building and it was leading towards the culmination of the thingy. Afterwards, got a huge round of applause. We went to a pub around the corner, discussed what everyone liked about the thingy and what they enjoyed about it and what a thingy might be in the future. The space itself was it's a very long space, and it had a huge cinema screen at the far end, really beautiful HD projector, and speakers all the way back. So Ryan's sound design on it, the score on it sounded terrific, and it worked amazingly with the visuals. So it's really what I wanted the thingy to achieve in a cinema space. Hey, here we are at the castle-filled Roman settlement. This is where we shot one of the Exifeston scenes from Django Your Own Way. To make the most out of the shooting, I decided to film here for the Exifeston scene. I shot under this little bridge here for some inserts that went in a flashback that were just spotlit. So I brought some very powerful torches, so it looked like a black background. And we shot a scene with Craig and Alex just on the underpass. So it was the same cast for all 3 sequences. And so we needed to bring the 2 costumes per actor as well. So there's quite a lot of stuff to bring. So we staged and shot the Exifeston scene here, and we then shot the inserts inside this bit. And while we were shooting, it was first thing in the morning, it was raining, and while we were shooting, there's some people that had been out all night wanting to come and talk about what we were doing and why, seeing as we were dressed up as cowboys in the middle of Manchester first thing in the morning. So that was fun. But yeah, so it started to rain. I'd brought an umbrella as a contingency plan, so we sellotaped the umbrella to the tripod so that the camera would be okay. And we shot there, I think we shot about an hour and a half just the other side of the wall there. So I decided if I just used the brickwork, which is a different kind of colouring, closer to the colour palette that I was using for the Exifeston scenes. The Exifeston scenes, which were warmer colour palette, so oranges, reds, warm kind of violent colours. And for the quote-unquote reality scenes, the scenes of my comedy character performing or receiving advice from all the different people he's trying to pitch his Exifeston idea to, they were bluer temperatures, so the costumes and the locations I picked all had colder colours to them. So if we go through from the orange brickwork, which I heightened with the colour grade, so pushed everything up, took all the blues out, shot for, did our shooting there, did our inserts for the flashback in the bridge, and then we came through here. So we arrived at about 10 in the morning, I think there, finished by about 11:30, walked through here, this lovely brickwork, so we've got the railway bridge there, we come through to the canal system. A canal's a system? I don't know. So it's just this sequence here. So I've recce'd this location and I thought it looks terrific, it's going to be great. It's the scene where my comedy character is trying to placate 2 guys he's bumped into by telling them about his Exifeston story instead of being relieved of his funds. And the 2 characters are into it, of course, because it's a comedy. And my comedy character is so scared by it that he comes up with the idea for an Exifeston scene. And the scene was the one that we shot beforehand in the day. So we shot them in reverse chronology, which is mainly because Paul, one of the actors, who was in the first bit and the flashbacks, was working in the afternoon. So we did all the stuff with him first, and then he could go to work, and then we came down here. So when we got here, there was these huge posters that someone had put up at the top of the column. So I had to actually mask out one of them on the wider shot that you see in the scene. So one of the practicalities of the structure of Django is that because we're cutting in mid-delivery, it would take out the need for establishing shots, which means that my comedy character could describe a certain place or something that would basically take a lot of budget or know how to stage, i.e. a sort of western town. And we can cut to the actual scene instead of needing to establish it all, so we could use the verbal to establish it. So it was against this column that we shot the scene. The scene that looks like it's from higher up, we shot from the top of those stairs. And if you can see here, it's still got the same leak. So we used that as part of the production value, and I think my blocking position was around here. We had the sideways shot from there, which was a Dutch angle, which we opened the scene with, so my character's very threatened by Alex and Craig. And then we had a shot of the three of us there, where, again, imposing onto me. And then we start to do the more comedic stuff, where they're having the back and forth and arguing about whether it's worth hearing about Django and whether they just want to hear about the bad guy, Joe King, who is Joe King by name and Joe King by nature, of course. Free Foley. We cut to 45-degree angles. So from here for over Alex's shoulder for me and Craig, and then for Alex, we're here over the shoulder. So on the shooting for this scene, it was a really fun scene to shoot, because I was earlier in the day I was aware of having to try to get a lot done and keeping everyone motivated and excited throughout the whole shoot. So I wanted people to feel like they were on like a legitimate set and they're having a fun, like, filmic experience. So once we got to here, it really felt like we were having a lot of fun with the actual performances. And for example, when Alex shoves me up against the pole, we worked a lot on how that was going to look, because we discussed in depth that it needs to be legitimately scary at that point. One, so that it doesn't just end up being quote unquote funny, if you could call it that. And also, so when he pushes his arm up against my neck, I've just bumped my lapel mic. He pushes my arm up against my neck, and I do that again. That has a comedic release to it before we move into the Exy Festen sequence. So that was one of the first experiences I had on a thingy on Django Way. It was relatively early we shot this sequence, where I was conscious of developing the performance and the blocking and how the mechanics of the performance was going to feed into what I was hoping the scene would achieve in the wider narrative for the character arc, and all the things I was setting up going between the Exy Festen and the reality sequences. I was conscious of whether it was going to cut, because all three of us were in shot on the two 45-degree shots, and thankfully we were looking at Alex at the right time when we were cutting between them all, and Craig was looking at Alex at the right time, so there was continuity edits that I could make there, which worked. And so that was the end of that day, was pulling together the working edit, which I did on all of the thing is I do a working edit the day I shoot, so that it's fresh in my mind, and I not only know that the footage is captured, but I know that it's probably gonna function for its intended purpose in the thingy. Free Foley. I had a very good set at the Whiskey Jar, which is another place, which is some footage from one of those shows is on Freelance Gigolo with the Hello song. And that set went really amazing. It was this really amazing dream where everyone seemed to enjoy the exuberance and the fun of being on stage and how exciting it is to be in front of people. And from that, I got offered a regular slot here. Another sequence in Freelance Gigolo that is filmed here is the bus shelter sequence. So the static shot at the back of the club, where I'm talking about being at the bus shelter and having a nice conversation with an old man about wearing socks, was shot here. That was another really fun evening where not many people turned up, and we managed to drag people in. So the few people you see, they've literally just come in because we started late, and I went straight on after Will introduced everyone to the night. So that's the first thing they saw, is me coming in and being impressed with my own idea of sitting at a bus station near an old man and nodding hello, and him recognising that I've done that. So it's a fun scene to watch for the audience's glance to each other. There was a few gigs after that when I really realised that Freelance Gigolo was going to be a new thing that was coming from the feeling from those performances around that time in my performance career. And so I was driving to do my set here, and I kept on thinking about the things that were going to be in the movie. And when I got here, I felt kind of out of sorts. Went on stage and did my set, but I think the same intensity and the same attention was kind of missing. I guess you call like a kind of like the sense of magic about being on stage, and the set was just completely flat. So everything, all those pauses where I'm impressing to people how fun that was, I guess that didn't ring out, and so it was just literally me describing a very ordinary light moment in my life of being at a bus stop and nodding at an old man. And that's when I realised that the attention and energy that I needed at that point of my career to do performance was the same that I needed to do the filmmaking. And so I needed to decide whether I was going to finish Freelance Gigolo or continue doing live performance. Obviously, I chose making Freelance Gigolo, and I think since then I've developed more of a ability to do both parallel. But yeah, it's a very fun gigs, very fond memories, and of the Seven Oaks. When we screened Freelance Gigolo in 2017, it was a slightly different story. I think one of the main errors was trying to re-achieve the same kind of success and feeling, just kind of the blunder of the first edit of Freelance Gigolo. So during the screening, about 45-50 minutes in, I realised that the film, as it wanted to be, I realised it had its own libido, and I continued after that screening. I mean, the screening went on, like, is perfectly polite. Everyone said they enjoyed it. Everyone laughed in the right places. It went well, but it was just like a strange stain afterwards that it wasn't what it wanted to be. So I cut about 45-50 minutes out of it, reworked a little bit of it, shot a few more little sequences, and pulled together the sketchbook edit, which is about, I think it's about 78 minutes. And it's my biggest fan. Once that was completed, I cut a new trailer that I wanted to be have as much as possible in as short a time as possible. So it would look like something undeniably exciting and terrific and fun, and that's the trailer that I now use to let everyone know about Freelance Gigolo. That trailer was seen by Roberto Rupaolini in Milan, and he asked to see Freelance Gigolo. So I sent him the sketchbook edit, and he said he liked it so much he wanted to distribute it through his art label, Carvaluge. This is the quintessential thingy moment, where when I get to the successful part and we're drowned out by the parameters in which we shoot.
Many happy returns.
When I originally came up with the idea for Happy Returns, I was trying to think of a good vehicle that could be driven by a sort of a movie star, someone like Gemma Arterton, and I would figure out how to do a budgeted feature. So I put together a treatment, and I sent it round to various places, asking for meetings and advice to discuss how to put a funding package together, how that's done, who that needs to go to. So that's about sort of like 6 weeks of going through that kind of process. I didn't see very much progress, and I wasn't too convinced that there would be much progress very soon. And the structure of Happy Returns was coming through so strong that I thought, if I've constructed it as something that can be done in one location with a small cast, two things I've not done in Django Your Own Way and Freelance Gigolo. They both got lots of people in lots of different places. And that construction is also something that can be done in a specific schedule window. Then why don't I just do it as a thingy? As long as I can find someone that can carry a feature for the lead character, I think it will work, and I think it'll be a fun thing to do. And as soon as that idea came to me of making it in that way, lots of little subtle ideas rushed forth with it, and I realised that it was going to be my third thingy, and that would be my next project, Happy Returns, as a Daniel Hutchings thingy. And the next significant step with Happy Returns was happening upon meeting Marketa, which was completely by chance, really. I did a casting call for the lead character. She was the only sort of serious applicant, as in the person who had the desire to follow through on making a feature film. And it just so happened that she was embodied everything that I wanted for the character. I was able to play that character at different periods of that character's life, and actually wanted to do it. So we did a short screen test here in January of 2019 to see if the way we approached working would gel, and it did, and it was great fun. So Marketa came to stay and live with us for, I think it was about 6 days in total. She arrived on the Monday afternoon, she went back on the Sunday afternoon. So we had about 5 full days to shoot all of her scenes, and shockingly we got it all done, and it was more than I expected it was going to be. The transformative element that Marketa brought to it, that she read into the script and into the character, was far more than I ever expected to have in the thingy. And so that pushed that thingy, that gave it that engine for that character arc to carry all the way through to that feature length conclusion and climax in more ways than one. Was there anything else you'd like me to cover on that bit, Nick?
Yeah, why did you want to make a budgeted?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I made the decision that it was time to try making a budgeted film for practical reasons, and that was that my camcorder that I used to make Django Your Own Way Freelance Gigolo, that I owned, I didn't hire any equipment for any of the thingies, had developed a glitch that was really regular. So I wouldn't be able to have many takes without dropped frames or a glitch in the frame. So I thought, well, I can no longer make films with my own resources, my own equipment. So I better look at figuring out how to be paid or use someone else's money to make a feature film. And because I'd embedded this idea that I had to get a new camera, I was thinking that I'm going to have quite a large amount of money to get another camcorder. But then once I dedicated to doing Happy Returns, I thought, well, let's see what the quote is to get that camcorder fixed. And it turned out that they still made the part. It was a relatively old camcorder. And it was relatively easy to do. So it was a lesson about embedding what you think the solution to a problem is, instead of looking at the problem and figuring out the shortest distance to have it solved so you can continue working.
I thought you were going to say, oh, I've got a family now and I have to start taking it seriously.
Stop fucking around and get some money.
Like how I feel every morning when I wake up. Serious. No. It was a technical thing. All along. Sorry folks, you need to know the dramatic story we wanted.
Yeah. No, is that like, obviously the thing of like making, was obviously also the desire after doing 2 feature-length works and having Freelance Gigolo picked up by Carbeluce in Milan, that I thought there must be a natural progression here that people can see. These like strange art comedies have some kind of validation. So maybe we should see about if we can put that on a slightly bigger scale and reach a slightly larger audience and begin to, at the very least, cover its own costs for production, and be able to spend more time experimenting and discussing with having a team. So the stuff like art design and costume and makeup and everything, I can have a more process of development with the people I'm collaborating with, and getting more out of those, being able to have those people invest in the film, like their artistic voice and their artistic ability and sensibilities. But I think I'm so heavily entwined with the making process that as soon as it started feeling like it was the start of a long admin process, I thought, you know, I don't really want to have Happy Returns be a film that's finished in 2022 or 2023 and then have another process of supporting it through release and distribution before I get to make another thingy. So I've got like several thingies in mind and have done for like many years, and I've kind of got charted which film's going to come at what point. And I thought, you know, I'm more interested in developing a way of making films on a shorter turnaround that don't need to go through as much of a filtration process of approval and signing off before they get to the point of being manifested. So here we are at 56 Stanley Street. This is where we shot Happy Returns. This is also the family home. So this is the start of the opening shot in Happy Returns, where Marketa is on the doormat. She's picked up the card, and then we follow her through to establish her crazy hectic day and all the obligations that she has to do. We establish the house, where all the rooms are, all the family members, so that later on in the thingy you have more latitude to cut between stuff and the audience are already aware of the geography of the character's life. Okay, so if we come through here, this room is not seen in Happy Returns. That's the room that we have for Leo's studio. We come through into the living room. It's changed quite a bit since we shot Happy Returns. We now have another member of the family, Sydney. There's my wife Rose. And this is where we came through here. The camera position stayed there. Marketa came in, checked the washing up, notices Daisy's had some wine, puts the bottle back down, comes back through, asks Dolly to tidy her Lego up. Oh, you okay, Sid? And she follows through up here, and we get to the stairwell. So we had a difference in exposure once we got to the top of the stairs. So there is a cut hidden halfway up the steps that also took out a few steps, so it's keeps the momentum of the sequence. The camera position then stays there. Marketa comes into the kitchen, realises there's a load of water on the floor. She's going to tidy up, takes off her wedding ring, realises she can't be bothered, so goes in to see her elder daughter, Daisy. Now at this point, we hadn't cast Daisy yet, so we had Marketa goes into this room and has the one side of the conversation about Daisy being a bit hungover and not getting up. We faked opening the curtains by having a tarpaulin that she could easily just pull down with one fluid motion, so she wouldn't be stuck with the action of getting all the curtains open whilst she's acting. So then we dubbed on Meg's lines, who we cast, I think the Monday following we finished it with Marketa, and she acted to Marketa's delivery, which I think worked great. Then Marketa comes back out here. We have another cut. We hide a cut going forward here, so I have another difference in exposure. And this was the Leo and Emma's bedroom. So we come in and then the shot finishes and we reverse to have a high-angled shot that follows Emma's sight as she goes around and sees all the mess that Leo's left. And then we cut to the close-up of her looking in the mirror here. She groans to herself, "Can't believe this is my life." And then she falls out of shot, and we have the sting of Dolly's character, who is here. Dolly's character, Penny, then says, can you remember?
"Mummy, can you help me find Piggy?"
There you go. She still remembers her lines 2.5 years later. How's about that? So the logistics of the house were affected a lot. The logistics of the house affected how we executed it. So we had particular spaces for particular parts of Emma's psychology and Marketa's performance. So establishing the whole house to begin with meant that the geography of not just the house but also Emma's character and how she sees everything before we go into the different scenes in the different spaces and in different time periods. So Here we are in Bury. This is the location of Emma's flashback sequence, the beginning of the flashback sequence in Happy Returns. I have very fond memories of this underpass. This is my last minute location change for the fictional Eastern European country that myself and Marketa invented for Emma's backstory. So Marketa ingeniously invented a whole new language that was an amalgamation of several Eastern European languages. And she arrives into shot after the abrupt cut at the point of clarification for Emma. So the first time we hear the first person internal monologue since the start of the film. And we cut to this static shot that's a different ratio in colour. And Emma walks round the corner and down here and she meets Leo, and we realise what Emma's been missing in her life. And I shot her handheld from here after the establishing shot. She faces camera, and then she shot my lines, which I had to learn phonetically for the invented language one, and she shot me coming in like that. So we're facing each other, looking through the camera. It's the first time we see Emma when she was younger, around the time that she fell in love. This was a last minute location change because we were going to film somewhere in central Manchester that was outside a brutalism looking building that we're going to have as the venue where Leo was going to be playing. And the Manchester run, which I didn't find out until too late, was scheduled to be on the very day we were filming, and so it was restricted access to the city centre for driving. We still had a lot to shoot on the last day, so I cut out all the travel, so it gave us more time to actually get stuff in camera. And we shot here, which is about 10-15 minute drive from the house instead of about 45. And that's just in the car, not taking into account getting from the car to the location. So this stood in for our fictitious Eastern European country. It is still graffiti-less, it is still extremely clean. It's been painted again recently, I'm not sure when. All the lights work, so I thought it has this strange otherness about it, where it looks like a different place other than Great Britain. And Emma's memory of herself would slowly come back into her mind as she comes closer to us as an audience. And I was just decided to frame out everything else and let the performance sell us on the location. So it's something I'm a great believer in. If the performance is great, it doesn't matter what else is going on. It should sell them on the scene and that section of the thingy. So we're in the middle of a bit of a strange junction here. So I've got Angloomy Way coming around, and we've got several like big A roads up here. So if we just come up here, I think we had lapel mics for this audio, which was surprisingly quite usable, but it had heavy score on as well. So if we come up here, we can see the main road coming in from Bolton Way, going over towards the M66 and going around Angloomy Way that way. And when we came here in the morning, which we thought would be extremely quiet, Sunday morning, 10:30, we got the camcorder out, put it on a tripod ready to shoot. For some reason, a slew of walkers just came out of that underpass, slowly walked towards us, walked past us, and it didn't stop. And I swear for about 10-15 minutes there was just a stream of, like an organisation of people just coming all the way down, all the way around. And I'm getting quite anxious now because I'm trying to finish my thingy before Marketa has to go back to Cardiff. And just when I'm about to pull the plug, after about 15 minutes of just these people just constantly walking past without a break, the last person walks past us out and through, and we had not one person walking past the shoot for like about half an hour, or we managed to get the beautiful opening shot and the shots of me filming Marketa and Marketa filming me to get the scene shot and done. So wonderful. Rose and Dolly were stood in that little bit. That was our green room, that little section there, so that was definitely out of shot. And so I wanted to make sure that someone can keep an eye on us and anything, because we did have an equipment bag with some stuff like the script and like water and stuff like that. So they were our location manager, and it's a very happy memory coming here because it makes me think of how that was the point when I knew the thingy would get finished, because I knew we could do the amount of stuff we had left in the amount of time we had So this is when I really knew the thingy was going to be in existence.
Yeah.
So I think it's like a generational thing where there's not the sort of snobbery or the same embedded working methods. You know, so they're going like, yeah, you know, I mean, like TikTok reels, like get, you know, probably got, there's TikTok reels that have had more views than all of Mike Leigh's films put together.
Yeah.
You know, does that mean it's better than Mike Leigh's films? No. You know, but it means that audiences are not as bothered about resolution and fidelity as, you know, they might once have been. And I think definitely things going back to being the experience and of going and seeing a public communal screening, and also that gallery space,
Yeah.
where you're away from the context of your own life. You know, you get it's that like kind of escapism element of going to a screening space is probably what'll swing things back the other way, because it's the only thing that the big screen has over every other streaming medium. Like budgeting and like the technology's so cheap, budgeting isn't an issue, and the streaming services are free, so distribution isn't an issue.
Yeah.
So then the issue is, how do you engage? How do people find you and want to watch past the pre-roll?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things I was trying to figure out, is how to explain and how to put over a very simple filmmaking model. So, because I selfishly want to see more specific films from specific filmmakers about specific subjects that are very tactile and personal and seem to be more from the present rather than something that's a product of something that's a journey that started about, you know, between 2 to 5 years ago. So I guess it's closer to sort of the John Waters approach of like, take the story from the headlines, make the film like within a week, and then get it out there while the story's still relevant. But that's not the kind of films I make. But I would like to see more films being made like that, because I think it would be more. I think it'd be very fun as an audience member, and I think it'd be very healthy for the filmmaking landscape for them to be quicker turnaround, more specific subject matter for specific people.
It's more direct as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think that you've developed this through your comedy, because you're connecting directly with an audience when you do that, and your filmmaking seems the same way, and the way that you show your films as well when you organise the screenings, it's an event. It's something that's unique. It's not just shall we go there and buy some popcorn and watch a load of adverts in a film?
Oh, I do love adverts before the thingy. See, I put my own trailers and my own fake adverts before the thingies, just so it puts people in a frame of mind that they're at a like cinema event. I think also I'm very conscious of having something that screams excitement and validates that they've come in to watch the thingy. So always conscious of, within the first 5 minutes, once the thingy's actually started, that there is something that speaks of an artistic conceit that's been put into the film. So in Django Your Own Way, it was having the little time lapse of Django being dead on the passed out on the beach, and my comedy character describes it as doing one of those speedy up things, and then it's morning. So I wanted to have something where it had a sense of production value. In Freelance Gigolo, it was going to actually be pure joy and fun, and maximum fun for children of all ages, which is another way I like to describe what I do, with the Hello song. And in Happy Returns, it was the tour of the house, which would establish every character and every room of the house in one long fluid shot, so that the audience can buy into it as fast as possible. And I think it's an extension of performance, the thingy screenings, because I'm at all the screenings. I'm there, I'm usually introducing them. Quite often there's like either a chat afterwards or post Q&A or something. And it's just that it happens to be pre-recorded and edited and put together. It's still in a physical space, we're still with people, we're still putting something over. It's not necessarily, the recorded element isn't live, but there's a life to the event, that they're there with me And so I think that helps people see the work a little bit through my eyes, because I'm affecting the context a little bit more than if it was sort of traditional distribution. If it was traditional distribution, then they'll be coming to it cold, and they would evaluate it based on what else was on at the cinema that day. They'll probably still take at least a year writing a script, and they'll probably still spend a long time like rehearsing and shooting and reshooting and editing and doing the music and trying to get it out there. So you're still looking at like 2 to 3 years of your life to be dedicated to a project either way. So the amount of investment, whether it's on a large scale or a small scale, is still unaffected by the technological developments and whatever the needs are for an audience to have more things to see. I think if people think that low, micro, zero budget films are making a mockery of big budget and large studio productions, I don't quite understand that point of view, because I think we need to have a level of filmmaking where people can germinate interesting and fun and out there ideas on a feature length format that can then progress into budgeted and higher budgeted works. I don't think it makes much of a mockery, and I think if higher budgeted stuff if higher budgeted productions do think that it makes a mockery, then it's kind of like a strange position. Seen as like they're the ones with all the power. They've got the resources, they've got the stars, they've got the communication to get everything out there for everyone to go and see their film. So if they can't take it on the chin that someone turns out something really quickly like Colin, that like everyone goes, oh wow, that's amazing, it's so fresh, it's so new. If the fact that it's new and fresh is the thing that is troublesome, then it's a bit sour grapes, isn't it, really? You know.
Yeah. Do you think there's going to be a time when sort of YouTube or zero budget filmmakers will be sort of accepted as legitimate by everybody?
I think it's a foregone conclusion. I think there'll be a generational shift, because it's just as easy to cast something from your device onto your home entertainment system as it is to load Netflix. I think in the time when you had to download a torrent and that took a certain amount of time and you didn't know whether it was going to be the right copy of the file, and you didn't know whether you'd need subtitles and if you'd have the right subtitles file, are a thing of the past. I think the filmmakers can have their complete final version on YouTube that can be loaded on someone's phone and put on a television like in a matter of seconds. And I think once the generation shifts and people have grown up with that, and that is their experience of where to find interesting, amazing, exciting films that take risks and are not the same as what they might see on the back of a bus, that it won't be a question of whether the content is as worthwhile. It'll be, I go to those kinds of films for those kinds of ideas and storytelling methods.
Are you ever actually happy with them in the end?
Yeah. I mean, when I made Django, I was like, unironically, at the screening, but you know, the cast were going like, it's the first screen. I was so happy that it was done and that it played back and everything. I could just see everything that I'd invested in it and everything. I could read so much in everyone's performances. I was actually going like, I think it's my favourite film. You know, out of like, and they're going, oh right, it's your favourite film that you've made. So no, it's my favourite film, like ever. You know, I love what everyone's done in it. Like, you know, I don't know if at that point it came across that I was kind of saying to them, you know, as far as I'm concerned, you guys are like movie stars. You know, you're in this film, and you're representing all these certain things within the structure and what the comedy character's going through, but also what effect your reality character is having on the imagination for, and that character ending up in the Exifeston. So I was like, I really enjoyed that, exploring all those things, and I really loved creating that world and all those sensibilities and everything, and I really enjoyed like the reality scenes not being like social realism, you know, it's like being, you know, like still being comedic, but then finding the sequence from just walking around London, like asking like anyone if they want to help him make an Exifeston, and that going through into the scarecrow sequence and the abstract flashback. Like I really thought that's something like that's really that's like that I'd really tap directly into something that was like immediate about what I wanted to have in my thingies, and I don't think I could have thought my way into those sequences or written them. Like I had the flashback sequence, I came with the scarecrow thing as a visual thing as I was putting it together, and you know, I think like it just all the sort of narrative things and dialogue things falling away to just having that kind of abstract representation of either like his subconscious or some kind of collective subconscious or something like with the other characters. Yeah, like when I finished the shorter version of Freelance Gigolo, the sketchbook edit, I thought I don't know how I'm going to make a film that I like more than this, because it's all the things I wanted to be able to do with regards to the amount of stuff in there and the kind of editing and the kind of visuals and all the different designs, and how, again, the sort of like idea of everything affecting, you know, the comedy character's imagination, how he perceives himself, like with the trial and everything. So again, like characters playing, it's very, very much inspired by Lindsay Anderson's Oh Lucky Man for the multiple castings, because I really thought, you know, Lucky Man, he's the multiple casting. I mean, he said it's a budgetary constraint, but then he also thought, when he thought about it, they would start to represent the certain types of people, not like what they look like or anything, but the certain types of people that end up at the different levels of society, and not just like British society. So, you know, Arthur Lowe. Here we are at the location for Joe King's throne from Django Your Own Way. As you can see, it's no longer just Grant's monument. It's no longer just Joe King's throne. Someone's actually made a house in this. I came to visit it for the first time in several years, about this time last year, and I found out that it had been made into a home, and it inspired me to think of my thingies as more like me creating a world, and people can go inside that world and inhabit it and live in it for the time that the thingy is playing, and maybe have some kind of home with it for the life they live when the thingy ends. So what's next for Daniel Hutchings? More thingies!